What's good? It's your boy Mixtape Moth, and today I'm gonna do a review of the new Armani Caesar album entitled "The Liz." Let's get to it. Armani Caesar is a Buffalo, New York rapper who recently signed to Griselda Records, although she is not exactly new on the rapping scene or new to working alongside artists on the Griselda roster, as she grew up in Buffalo rapping together with Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine in the group called Buff City. Now, on the surface and at a first glance, Armani Caesar doesn't appear to fit into the whole hardcore hip hop aesthetic that Griselda has going on. This is in regard to her overall look, swag, and even her rapping voice, which at times reminds me of a combination of Lil' Kim and Nicki Minaj. Nonetheless, she obviously appears to have a genuine love for the old school hip hop sound, as it is pretty evident in the style of beats that she tends to rap over. But if you didn't know of her history as a Buffalo rapper, then you might be under the impression that she would make music more geared towards the Megan Thee Stallion and City Girls kind of crowd. However, over the summer, I quickly learned that this wasn't the case with Armani Caesar after she released her first single, which was produced by the iconic DJ Premier. And what a better way to let traditional rap fans know that you are serious about this hip hop shit than to have a beat from DJ Premier. This hard-hitting single had me anticipating this album somewhat because I liked her presence and energy on top of the Primo beat with the MC Light and Lady of Rage vocal scratches. It was just a pure hip-hop moment. But after listening to this new album, The Liz, in its entirety, that bold and fiery presence found on the single Simply Done is there in small doses, but it is mostly absent. Rather, Armani appears to be more comfortable rapping in this subdued manner throughout this tape. There seems to be more low-key songs on this project where Armani can be seen as taking a backseat to the guest feature, whether it's Benny or Conway. That's not to say that her performances were whack on any of the tracks that feature Griselda artists, but she definitely didn't shine bright or stand out when in the company of these guests. This project is brief at just a little over 25 minutes in runtime, much like the recent Boldy James Griselda album. I'd say stylistically, this project has Westside Gunn's influence stamped all over it like a brick, whereby you have several one-verse songs without a chorus, a wrestling skit, and moments that just feel like freestyle verses. In terms of the beats, the majority of these instrumentals are backed with sparkling keys and boom bap drums. There are a couple of wavy and trap inspired instrumentals, but overall the beats are actually more boom bap-ish than what we got on both Westside Gunn's and Conway's most recent albums, which I thought was kind of odd considering Armani Caesar still seems like the least likely person on the roster to have this style of production. I would say that I don't mind the beats here, but I don't think they were always the best fit for Armani's rapping style, as the majority of these instrumentals seem like they would have complemented artists like Shay Noor or Rhapsody's sound a lot better. So I don't necessarily dislike the sound of this album, but I'm just a little uncertain as to who Armani Caesar's target audience really is. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I don't suspect that many of the younger kids will be vibing to these particular songs. And at the same time, I can't foresee a lot of older hip hop heads accepting her in this lane either. But with that being said, let me go ahead and hit y'all with this track by track breakdown. But the first song, Countdown, is actually a highlight. This is produced by J.R. Swifts, who works with Griselda quite a bit, and this beat does sound very Griselda, kind of like if you mixed up the following beats in a blender: the beat from Spurs 3, the second half of Conway's Damani, and Tito's Back. Put all three of those instrumentals in a blender and you have Countdown. The Redman vocal sample was a nice touch. I think it adds that hardcore and explosive energy to the record. Now that I think about it, I would like to hear more Redman samples on other artists' hooks. Armani lets it be known right off the bat that she's not the one to be played with if you try to play her, as she states, "Fuck busting out your windows, I'm gonna put a bomb in your benzo, do harm to your mental, have you seeing me in your dreams, hitman walking up to you like they a fiend." Okay, so I thought that hitman walking up to you like they a fiend line was pretty clever. I mean, what a better way to have the element of surprise on your intended target than to pose as an unsuspecting fiend or an addict. But yeah, this was one of my favorite tracks as I like the beat, the Redman chorus, and Armani's hardcore demeanor on this record. I wish we could have seen more of this side of Armani throughout this tape, to be honest. The following track, Mac 10's For Everybody, continues with the nostalgic 90s production sound, although the beat is more mellow and gentler than the opening song. The dusty loop makes it feel like 1995 all over again. Westside Gunn is doing some singing on the chorus, which wasn't bad, but I also would have been perfectly fine without it. Armani was rapping on here. Some lines that stood out were, call me ARCs, industry dudes want to AR me, no sick, need double ARP, they want to trademark me, cut the check, I'm about my biz marquee, I drop bombs for K-Slay Bar B's. So we got some lyrics referencing hip-hop elders like DJ K-Slay and the legendary Biz Marquee, which I thought was dope. Even though I do like this song, I didn't particularly care for its placement in the track list, especially after a strong, hard-hitting opener like Countdown. I felt this mellow production seemed a little too laid back early in the album, and I think it brought down the energy slightly. After that, we get the one verse song, The Liz, in which Armani drops a couple of slick lines on top of this really dreamlike and sparkling piano loop. This one is decent, but it has more of a wavy and laid back vibe. She said, y'all scared to get it poppin', I'm really a whole Zan, call my new Glock jelly, I promise it won't jam. Bars like this kind of represent that middle ground between being downright basic and somewhat clever. The verdict is still out as to which one it is, but I did like the beat on this song nonetheless. The record Gucci Casket featuring Conway has somewhat of a darker and moodier boom bap beat. Conway experiments with the new flow here, which I think sounded pretty dope. He states, they be like, who is him? The kid from Doe Street that sold 2 for 10s, the hooligan that made rapping on grimy loops cool again. Yup. That would be Conway. This was a cool track, but I gotta admit, I was more impressed with what Conway had to say than Armani. She didn't have a bad verse, but I didn't think she had much of a presence on here either. Thankfully, the tempo picks back up on the 808 Mafia-produced Drill Arama featuring Benny the Butcher. This beat is very different stylistically from the rest, as it feels very drill and trap inspired. This one is basically a banger that has that turn up kind of feel. I do like the change in pace here because I felt that Armani was sounding a little too low energy in the previous couple of songs. Honestly, I think Armani might be better suited for this style of production as opposed to the kind that we got on, let's say, a track like Mac 10's For Everybody. She just comes across as more bold and confident on a Drill-A-Rama type beat. Let's also acknowledge that this is another moment that we get to hear Benny rap over this more modern style of production. I mean, what did y'all think of Benny's flow on this one? I personally thought it was cool, as I'm all for Griselda showing that diversity in sound. Then we have the DJ Premier produced Simply Done, which I already did a track review for. I still enjoy this record as much as I did when it first dropped in the summertime. The Primo beat really brought out her confidence and charisma as a rapper. I was honestly hoping to get more of that swagger from Armani throughout this project, but you can definitely find it in full display here. Okay, so what follows is one more trap style track entitled Yum Yum. The beat is obviously geared more for a younger trap audience. It's also a pretty wavy instrumental. It's not something super turnt, but it's definitely a melodic trap track that you could vibe out to. Again, I think Armani's sound becomes more prominent over these trap inspired beats. Maybe that's something that the powers that be over at Griselda might want to consider for her moving forward. I liked Yum Yum for a vibe, not because it was super lyrical or anything. What follows is Palm Angels, which has Armani dropping some relationship styled bars over a somber yet somewhat wavy beat. This almost has more of a West Coast feel, but this track didn't do a whole lot for me, to be honest. It just kind of existed. In fact, the last 3 songs on this record are pretty average in my opinion. The song Ginger Rothstein has a luxurious loop, but Armani fails to bring the track to life. There is nothing epic sounding about this one, unfortunately. Is it awful? No, but it is rather dull. The album closes out with Monty Moove's freestyle. This contains the popular Roy Ayers Searchin' sample. This one was just alright, I suppose. I mean, it was kind of an underwhelming way to end a short project if I'm going to keep it 100. Overall, I give this a rating of 3 out of 5. So based on the Source Magazine's rating scale, which I use, a 3 out of 5 means good, worth checking out. This rating of a 3 was not done to trash Armani as an artist or to declare that this project was garbage, but it simply indicates that there were some good moments that were worth checking out. Did I want her to come with harder hitting material like she gave us on the song Simply Done? Absolutely. That's why I feel this project was a little underwhelming. It lacked the whole kick in the doors, larger than life feel that I think most MCs would want their debut album to have. I like about 6 songs on this project, but I did not get the sense that Armani was too hungry on this Liz tape. In fact, she often came across as being too cool for school, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in itself, but it definitely makes it harder to leave a lasting impact when you do take this approach. At the end of the day, I got the impression that Armani Caesar was really on cruise control throughout the majority of this thing. There were a few glimpses in which I could see Armani shining as bright as the star that she has the potential to be. But as a whole, this project came across as more of a mixtape appetizer. Hopefully, moving forward, Westside Gunn will be able to better tailor a production style that brings out Armani's full potential as an artist on this roster. Because to keep it a buck, he didn't do Armani Caesar or Boldy James any favors with these last 2 projects. My favorite tracks include Countdown, The Liz, Gucci Casket, Drillarama, Simply Done, and Yum Yum. Let me know what you thought of this project in the comment section below. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Armani Caesar, The Liz, 1.